Hello and welcome back. So here is another question on Fabric, and the question is, how can data analysts securely access only the gold layer lakehouse? So before we answer this question, I am going to present you a question based on this so that you will understand it better. So let's say this is my question. You are implementing Microsoft Fabric for a company. Let's say it's Contoso. Now your company has implemented a Medallion architecture, right? And Medallion, we all know, it has a bronze, silver and gold layer. Bronze has raw data, silver has cleansed data, whereas gold layer is ready to use data, which is actual the delta table, which is business ready. Now the security requirement states that data engineers need full read-write access. The data analysts should only access the gold layer, that is the end table, the delta table. Data analyst must not access bronze or the silver layer, which has the raw and cleansed data. So which configuration should you use? Now here are your options. You can add the data analyst group to the viewer role for the workspace. You can share the lakehouse and grant build report on default semantic model. Share the lakehouse and grant read all SQL endpoint data, or you'll share the lakehouse and grant read all Apache Spark data. So this question will give you clarity on how you must grant access on a particular table or a particular data. So again, welcome back. Now we'll go through this question one by one with all the option, and we'll try to identify which is the correct option. So this is a nice question which you may get in different forms, but I have given it in a form of a multiple choice question, but it can be in any form. So what it tests is whether you really understand Lakehouse, security, SQL endpoints and workspace permission. So let's solve it in a way interviewer expected to. So the first step is you should read the requirement or understand the requirement. Don't see the option first, but go to the requirement first. So what are the requirements? Data analyst only need gold layer data. They should not access bronze. They should not access silver, and data engineer continue to have full access. So we know that this is a security question and not a data engineering question. Okay. So now the second step is you should understand the lakehouse access. So a Fabric lakehouse actually exposes multiple ways to access data. Think about it. One lakehouse provides files, they provide delta tables, they provide Apache Spark, they provide SQL endpoint. Now the permission are different to expose these different parts. This is where most of the candidate confuse. So let's go to the option one by one and we'll see which option is correct. The option A says that you add data analyst as a workspace viewer. Sounds reasonable, but let's think. Workspace viewer give access to the workspace items. It does not automatically provide the correct lakehouse data permission, and more importantly, it does not provide or it does not restrict them to gold layer delta table. So option A is not sufficient. Now let's go to option B, which says share the lakehouse. Now you build report on default semantic model. Okay, but this option looks very easy and many people select this answer, but the permission only allows creating reports using the default semantic model. It does not grant access to all SQL table inside the lakehouse. So if analyst needs to query gold table directly, this option is not enough. So of course option B is also incorrect. Now we'll go to option C. What it says, read all SQL endpoint data. Now let's think carefully. Fabric automatically creates a SQL endpoints, we know, for every lakehouse. That SQL endpoint expose only the delta table. Exactly what analysts need. They need access to delta table, not Spark file, not notebook, not underlying storage, only SQL accessible delta table. So this option perfectly match the requirement. So analysts can query gold table using SQL, but they don't get access to the bronze or silver files. So this is what the requirement says in the beginning. Now the option D will also see quickly. Read all Apache Spark permission. So Spark permission, give access to the file inside the Lakehouse that include bronze, silver, and all the data files. Exactly what the requirement want you to restrict. So option D is definitely wrong. So the correct option is C, where you grant read all SQL endpoint data. Okay. So here are the some tips, some tip on the interview. If the question says why not simply make the analyst as a workspace viewer? Because workspace role control access to the workspace item. Lakehouse permission control access to the actual data. These are different security layer. Understanding this difference is very important in Fabric. Okay. And here are some more and before we end up, of course, there is a summary I would like to add. If the interviewer asks you how would you allow analysts to access only gold layer, the simple answer is you would share the Lakehouse and grant read all SQL endpoint data. This allows analysts to query delta table through the SQL endpoint while preventing access to the underlying files or Spark interface. It aligns with the principle of the least privilege and is ideal for user who only need analytical access to the data which is in the tables. Okay. Now, here is a challenge for you. What if the analyst also need to use Spark notebook to query the gold layer? Would option C is still enough, or do you think we need to change security model? So that is homework for you. Please do comment and let me know what you think about this question. So thank you. I will see you in the next question.